In the world of handheld gaming PCs, there are lots of choices to choose from. You can go for all-out power. You can go for ease of use. You can go for a big device or a small device if the form factor is important to you. Battery life, of course, is a big factor, and we have amazing choices for devices in each of these categories. And then we have the MSI CLAW. And the CLAW is... some people might... Hey there, I'm TechDweeb. How you doing? Thanks for clicking on the video today. You know those people that you meet in life that don't really do much to stand out? They're usually named Steve or Amanda, and they're probably nice looking, but not the best looking. You know, they're competent, but they don't have some cool skills to wow you. They're probably fine at what they do, but they're not like top of the class. Like everything they do is good, but you have a hard time remembering their name because they're just kind of there, you know? I don't know why I'm bringing this up. There's probably no point, really. It's definitely not relevant to what we're talking about today. Nope. I'm going to start off by saying something controversial. Are you ready? Not every device needs to be the best at what it does to be the only thing that people should buy. I know, crazy, right? Some devices aren't the best at anything, really, but the experience of owning them is still a good experience. Mediocre things are allowed to exist. You're a perfect example of that, Steve. And I've been having a great time with the CLAW, and I think anybody who gets one will have a great time with it. I'm not going to say for sure that everyone should buy this instead of an ROG Ally or a Lenovo Legion Go or a Steam Deck. That'll depend on multiple factors that we'll talk about, but I think that if you did get a CLAW, because you like what it does, you'd be pretty darn happy with it because it gets a lot of things right. And its biggest fault is something that MSI can fix that would make this thing a must-buy device. And we're going to talk about all of that today. I'm not going to be able to show you a proper unboxing because this is a review unit sent to me by MSI. I don't get to keep this. I need to send it back. And I could tell that it had been opened before it got to me. And there you can see our specs. This is the Core 5 135H version of the CLAW, by the way. You get the device, some documentation, the power adapter, and that's pretty much it. The power adapter is notable because it's freaking huge, but luckily any 65 watt adapter will work with this thing. This is my 65 watt adapter that I use all the time. This is the AOHI ultra thin 65 watt GAN Plus charger. This thing is awesome because it's so freaking slim and portable. It's perfect for handhelds for that reason. I'll toss a link to this thing in the description below if you want to pick one up. However, this version of the CLAW apparently is the one that's sold at Costco, and it comes with an accessory pack. In here we get a nice looking zippered case, and in the case is a screen protector that's made specifically for the CLAW, and some, silica gel. Definitely not gonna eat that. A little box in here. We get a claw. We'll come back to that in a minute. And a lanyard strap. So this case is nice and cushioned, lots of padding. The CLAW fits nice, as you would expect. Yeah, this gets the job done. I like it. All right, let's check out the CLAW. I guess it's a dragon's claw. It's got pointy claws, so if you actually use this as a keychain in your pocket, you'll probably get poked in the junk. So don't do that. There you go. I just saved your junk. That's got to be worth a subscribe, right? No? Oh, that's fine. The CLAW is the first handheld PC to feature the new Intel Core 5 and 7 chips. This version that I have is the 135H Core 5 model, and there's also a 155H Core 7 model. And both of these chips have the same GPU. They both have integrated ARC graphics. And we also get 16 gigabytes of 6400 megahertz DDR5 RAM, 512 gigabytes of internal storage in this model. The screen is 7 inches, 1080p, 120 hertz with variable refresh rate, and some nice extras like Bluetooth 5.4, Intel Killer Wi-Fi 7, a 53 watt-hour battery, and it comes with a claw, so it's got that going for it. On the front, we get some very nice Hall effect analog thumbsticks with RBG, of course. We have a circular floating D-pad, face buttons with more RBG, start and select, and 2 function buttons. On top, we got bumpers and Hall effect triggers, a power button, micro SD card hole, USB-C hole, a word thing that reminds you that you're a true gamer, headphone hole, volume buttons, and plenty of ventilation. Around back, we have 2 remappable paddle buttons, lots more ventilation, and a dragon. The controls on the Claw are one thing that the Claw gets very right, mostly. The thumbsticks are amazing. These are Hall effect sticks, so they shouldn't ever develop stick drift. Not all Hall effect sticks are built the same, but these are awesome. They are super responsive, 0 cardinal snapping, perfect input sensitivity, very accurate, and they nailed the shape of these. They have some like aggressive gnarling on the edge, which is nice. It feels good when you hang your thumb over the lip, but the convex bowl where your thumb sits is the perfect shape and texture. I love the sticks on this thing. The face buttons are good. They're that big kind of shallow style that we got on the Ally, but they don't bottom out as much. The D-pad is great. It's again the same circular floating style D-pad that we got on the Ally, and it's solid. No unintentional false diagonals, but easy to hit the diagonals when you want to. So much of this device is just like copied right from the Ally, which is fine. That's a good thing because the Ally is good. The triggers are great here. They have a nice subtle arch to them and they feel perfectly responsive. These are Hall effect triggers too. However, the one super weird misstep on the Claw is these bumper buttons. These are among the worst bumpers that I've ever felt. They have this like uncomfortable ridge down the middle, and these are the mushiest, squishiest, least satisfying bumpers like ever. It feels like there's soggy bread underneath these things. It's not the end of the world, but seriously, who the heck thought this was a good idea? The paddle buttons around back, I hate these. I hate them on the Ally. I hate when these companies put these big chunky paddle buttons on the back. And then those other function buttons are, again, just like the Ally, for bringing up a quick menu and a bigger settings menu and a game launcher. More on that in a bit. Ergonomically, this thing does almost everything right. The grips on the back are very comfortable, and the shape of the area that rests in your palms is perfect. It feels great. I genuinely prefer the ergonomics here compared to the ROG Ally. Not the Steam Deck though. The Steam Deck still wins for me. Even the plastic feels good. It feels good in my hands. It doesn't pick up smudges. This is where things get really interesting because the audio-visual experience on the Claw is one of, if not the best experiences that I've had on a handheld. On paper, the screen is more or less the same as the Ally. Lots of people say that it's the same screen, but either my Ally screen is different or they're just blind. Because to my eyes, the screen on the Claw is significantly better than the screen on the Ally. It's brighter, it's crisper. On the Ally, the fine details get ever so slightly muddier than the Claw. It's got brighter colors, it's a higher contrast, and significantly better viewing angles. And because we get that 120 Hz variable refresh rate, the movement in most gaming scenarios will feel more fluid and consistent. And the sound on the Claw, it's so good. These speakers are booming. They're deep, rich bass and crisp, clear high notes. Super loud, super clear. I tried all my PC handhelds and the Claw was far and above the best sounding. The system that we have on here is Windows, no surprise there. So you can do Windows stuff. The unique additions from MSI are the MSI Center app and their version of the quick settings. Brightness, sound, and power options. You can change the TDP mode, and they have 5 modes. Manual, which is where you set your own TDP. AI engine, which is where the system will adjust the TDP on the fly based on the needs at the time. And then performance mode, which is supposed to be the highest performance, and balanced, which is supposed to be the middle one, and then super battery, which is the low power mode made to squeeze out the most game time in less demanding games. However, these don't do much. More on that in a bit. And also in here, you can change the control mode, bring up the keyboard and turn on the on-screen performance overlay. And then MSI Center is the more in-depth settings menu where you can adjust everything about the controls, change the RBG, update the software and the BIOS, and you can use MSI Center as a game launcher. And it automatically scans and adds your games and it works fine. So yeah, no real complaints with the software other than Windows being a lame loser trying to wreck your FUD all the time, as usual. When it comes to gaming on PC handhelds, you're always going to be playing the balancing act of performance versus game settings versus battery life. My sacrifice is usually in the graphics. I prefer to get great battery life and to have performance that feels good, so I usually lower the settings in the TDP. However, one major thing about the Claw when it comes to TDP settings is that there aren't really any. I mean, they're there, you can change the power profile, but the actual effect of the change is barely anything. For example, let's look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm running at 1080p, native, medium settings, and this is on the super battery profile. The TDP on the APU is 20 watts, and we're getting 28 FPS on average. Going up to the balance profile, we gain a bit. We're at 32 FPS now, with about 26 watts on the APU. So a little bit of a boost there. And then now we'll go up to the performance preset, and we're at still 32 FPS. The wattage is barely any different. And then we have AI engine, which is supposed to dynamically adjust the TDP, and again, it didn't budge. And you can manually adjust the TDP, anywhere from 20 to 40 watts, but yep, you guessed it, no change at all to the performance. So the entire gulf of difference between the lowest setting and the highest setting is barely any different at all. This is a bad thing because it means we don't have headroom to get more performance or better battery life, but it's also a great thing, because this entirely takes the burden of needing to muck about with TDP settings off of you. I find that the AI engine setting is really good at dynamically adjusting the TDP up or down depending on the needs of the game. And the bigger factor in how much performance and battery life you get ends up being the settings in the game that you're playing. Speaking of battery life, again, you can tweak the TDP settings all you want, but the battery life will be barely any different. The biggest thing that affects the battery is how demanding your games are to play. For very demanding gaming scenarios, the ROG Ally beat the Claw in my battery test. The Claw lasted about an hour and 20 minutes, while the Ally lasted about 15 minutes longer. But then in a lighter gaming scenario, the Claw was way better than the Ally. Nearly twice the battery life at around 4.5 hours compared to the 2.5 hours on the Ally. Now, it can't hold a candle to the Steam Deck. The deck can get like 8 hours in light gaming scenarios, so if you want a device that'll last a very long time despite being less powerful, nothing beats the Steam Deck. But here the Claw feels like the happy middle ground. And in terms of raw performance, it's pretty close, with the Ally pulling out a bit ahead. In some games, the Claw matched the Ally, or beat it, with almost identical performance though. And in some games, the average FPS was the same, but the 1% lows weren't as good on the Claw. And in some games, the Ally pulled out ahead, but usually not by much, and usually only if it was plugged into the wall to get that 30-watt turbo mode. But in handheld mode, if you weren't comparing them side by side in controlled benchmarks, I don't think you'd be able to tell them apart much, except that maybe the Claw can be a little bit more stuttery in some games. However, there is one saving grace for the Claw, and that's the VTD setting in the BIOS. VTD is a virtualization protocol that basically allows direct access to the hardware in virtualized scenarios, like if you're running a virtual machine. This isn't something that MSI CLAW users are going to be doing. Let's be real here. And if you turn that off, you can get a pretty big impact. About 10% extra performance disabling this option. I'm surprised there's not more people talking about this. I asked MSI about this and they said that they're aware of it and that it might be included in a future update for the Claw. So I was happy to hear that. The Claw is using a new Intel chip, and this chip is a baby in the world of handhelds. There's some issues with compatibility and performance, but I've been watching this story unfold and it has improved a lot since launch, as far as I could tell. And things like this VTD setting are a good example of how minor tweaks to the drivers and the firmware can make tangible updates over time. And I fully expect it to get better as time goes on too. And I think it's obvious that they have been delivering real improvements, and I'm excited to see where this is going. Which is all to say that I think that the Claw is a good product with a few flaws, and I think for the right kind of gamer, it would be a fine choice if it weren't for the elephant in the room, the price. The base model of the Claw is the same MSRP as the ROG Ally. They're both $700. However, the ROG Ally has been more or less permanently discounted because it's on sale all the time. And the Z1 Non-Extreme Ally is even cheaper. And the Steam Deck is cheaper. And even the Legion Go is cheaper. In terms of performance and battery, the Claw is not the top dog or the underdog. It's the middle, the dog. The Steve or the Amanda of the handheld world. And it's not priced to fit into that niche. MSI needs to adjust the price so that it doesn't lose out in the value discussion. And I fully expect MSI to discount this very soon. They have to. The sooner the better. I really like the Claw. I love it. I love playing games on it. I love the screen and the booming sound. I love the battery life. I would happily grab this thing to game on if I got to keep it. And if you buy a Claw, you'll probably love it. The Claw isn't the black sheep that it's made out to be, in my opinion. I feel like the fact that it's not the best makes people want to say that it's the worst. And that's really harsh considering how good this thing is. It's pretty darn good. Even better than Steve or Amanda, actually. And that's it from me for today. If you like this video, then check out this video, my full review of the OLED Steam Deck, which I have to admit is still my favorite handheld PC. And there's a link to that on the screen now and down in the description below. And that's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching, bye bye!